Teşekkürler Belkıs Hanımcığım. Tabii şimdi Belkıs Hanım'ın verdiği inputlara baktığımızda dünyadaki ortalama 141 endüstriye düşen ama Türkiye'de 24. Bunu nasıl arttırmamız gerektiğini bugün 4 panelde Belkıs Hanım'ın bahsettiği gibi değiniyor olacağız. Tabii biz bu verileri nereden alıyoruz? Aslında Uluslararası Robotik Federasyonu'na alıyoruz. Yurt dışından da bir yabancı misafirimiz bizlerle aramızda. Uluslararası Robotik Federasyonu Genel Sekreteri Dr. Susanne Bieler'ı alkışlarınızla sahneye davet etmek istiyorum. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, as the General Secretary of the IFR, the International Federation of Robotics, it is a great honor and pleasure for me to be part of this opening ceremony of the Robot Automation and Future Conference held here today in Istanbul on the occasion of WIN-EURASIA Trade Fair. Robotics is such an important emerging technologies for our lives. It is at the core of many manufacturing processes, and companies using automation do this to maintain and even increase their productivity and competitiveness. Most consumer products would either not exist or at least wouldn't be available at the quality and prices we have today with robotics. Robots safeguard and create new jobs, and they have a tremendous positive impact on the macroeconomy and society. Even beyond manufacturing, robotics is impacting services we use and improve our everyday lives. The global robotics industry has seen a tremendous growth in the past years, in particular driven by the pandemic, by a growing demand for electronics and consumer goods, but also by the understanding that robotics makes industrial production more resilient and flexible, to quickly adapt production to changing demands and to withstand systemic shocks in interrupted supply chains. Turkey is a promising market for robot installations. It is an important production site for the automotive industry, but also for the manufacturing of consumer goods. In 2021, Turkey has increased new installations of industrial robots by 50%, and we even have good reasons to believe this growth will continue and show in the statistics for 2022 and 2023. Today will be a great opportunity to learn more about the market developments and future applications. We will hear more about technological trends driving the adoption, including digitization, cobots, no-code robotics, and AI. Advances in vision technologies, sensors, and grippers enable robots to support employees in a continuously expanding range of tasks. Intuitive programming interfaces, out-of-the-box robot applications, and robot-as-a-service business models will continue to lower barriers to robot adoption. Increasingly sophisticated machine learning and predictive algorithms and an increase in cloud-based analytical solutions will improve decision-making, production scheduling, and machine performance. The Robot Automation and Future Conference 2023 will provide great opportunities to discuss the latest technological and economic trends in robotics in the world and in Turkey. I'm looking forward to a successful event with a lot of new information and findings, lively discussions, and successful networking.
Dr. Bieler'a teşekkür ediyoruz konuşmaları için. Şimdi tabii biz bu Robot Otomasyon ve Geleceği Konferansı gerçekleştirirken iki derneğimizle beraber aslında planladık. Konuşmacılarımızı beraber seçtik, konu başkanı beraber belirledik. Dolayısıyla açılış konuşmalarını ve bizim iş ortağımız Robodel Yönetim Kurulu Başkan Yardımcısı ve MAIP Yönetim Kurulu üyesi Ali Şen'i alkışlarınızla sahneye davet etmek istiyorum.
Değerli konuklar, öncelikle WIN-EURASIA Fuarı'nın bütün katılımcılara ve paydaşlara hayırlı olmasını dileriz. Roboder olarak bu organizasyonda hem katkı veren hem de bu organizasyonun gönül verenlerinden olmak bizi ayrıca mutlu etti. Bu anlamda da yine Hannover Fair Türkiye ve fuar organizasyonunda görev alan bütün kurum ve kuruluşlara teşekkürlerimizi borç biliriz. Ben çok kısa, sözü uzatmadan öncelikle bilmeyenler için bir bilgilendirme, ardından da birkaç veri paylaştıktan sonra çok değerli panelistlere sözümüzü bırakmak istiyorum. Roboder 2018 yılında temelleri atılmış ve ihtiyaçtan mütevellit olarak kurulmuş bir dernektir. Türkiye'de robotik entegrasyonla ilgili yüksek teknolojili endüstriyel sistem üreticilerini bir araya toplayıp onların beklenti ve amaçlarını veya amaç birliklerini desteklemek adına oluşturulmuş bir sivil toplum örgütüyüz. Bu anlamda da üyelerimiz her geçen gün artmakta ve bu fuarın da çok sayıda katılımcısı olan ve aramıza sürekli olarak katılımları devam eden çok değerli üyelerimiz, uluslararası ve ulusal üyelerimiz bulunmakta. Ben de kendilerini temsilen şunları söylemek istiyorum. Malumunuz çok popüler bir konu robotik. Bu arada bizim Hipokrat'ımız da Isaac Asimov'dur. Tıpkı hekimlerin Hipokrat'ı gibi robotik endüstrisiyle meşgul olanların Hipokrat'ı Isaac Asimov'dur. Biz onların çizgi romanlarıyla büyüdük. O hayallerle, o dünyalar içerisinde buralara geldik. Enteresan da bir tevafuk olmuş. IFR'dan misafirimiz Sayın Doktor Susanne Hanım da yine çok ilgimi çekti. Asimov'un karakterlerinde çok önemli bir role sahip olan robotları rehabilite eden Doktor Suzanne'la bir benzerliği de fark ettim şimdi. Küçük de bir latife yapmak üzere de bunu paylaşayım. Diğer taraftan robotik endüstrisindeki tek bileşen robot değildir. Çok önemli bir yere sahiptir. Çok değerli konuşmacılarımızın da burada paylaştığı, bilhassa Kaan Bey'in vurgu yaptığı konu hasebiyle çevre birimler, endüstriyel sensörler, aktüatörler, proses ekipmanları her biri aynı derecede önemli ve bunları da bir araya getirerek değer üretebilen yeni dünyanın terzileri diye bizim tabir ettiğimiz robot entegratörleri olarak dünyada da bilinen entegratör grupları hayati önem arz etmekte. Onlar olmadan bu işleri sürdürülebilir kılmak, mümkün kılmak en azından bugünkü mühendislik doktrin ve disiplinleriyle olanaklı değil. Neden? Çünkü biz standart bir iş yapmıyoruz. Parakende ürünü değil ürünlerimiz ve genellikle hep perdenin arkasında çalışan kahramanları temsil ediyoruz. Onlar hep özel işler yapıyorlar, özel kumaşlar dikiyorlar, kişiye özel elbiseler oluşturuyorlar. Sözlerimi şununla noktalayacağım. Robot entegratörleri bile kendi içinde ayrışıyor. Bunun bilinmesi çok önemli. Yani hiçbiri birbirine neredeyse benzemiyor. Parmak izi kadar benzersiz firmalar. Netice itibariyle şöyle görebiliriz bunu. Bir kalp cerrahı ile bir beyin cerrahı sohbet etse eminim birbirlerine muazzam derecede saygı duyarlar ve birbirlerinin mesleklerini merak ederler. Ama o iki kişinin sohbetini dışarıdan gören bir mühendis onları görse büyük olasılıkla ikisi de aynı mesleği yapıyor diye düşünür. Bizim içinde kaldığımız durum genel olarak böyle. O yüzden paletleme, handling, montaj hatları, otomotiv endüstrisi, gıda ve paketleme, pick and place, son dönemlerde trendi yükselen machine tending gibi operasyonları kalp cerrahlığı, beyin cerrahlığı, dahiliyecilik, haricilik gibi sınıflandırmak neredeyse benzerlik kurmak çok mümkün. Ve robot entegratörleri olarak biz birbirimize çok saygı duyuyoruz. Birbirimizle çok iyi bir collaboration'ımız, iletişimimiz var. Ve bu iletişimi uluslararası değer üreten çok değerli firmalarımızla, robot üreticileriyle, proses üreticileriyle ve çok değerli sivil toplum örgütlerimizle, başta Enosat olmak üzere dost ve kardeş derneklerimizle sürdürebilir kılmaktan da mutluluk duyuyoruz. Ben sözlerimi noktalıyorum. Panelistlerimize ve bundan sonraki bütün konferans konuşmacılarına konuşmaları için şimdiden teşekkürlerimi arz ederim. Bütün emek verenlere de ayrıca teşekkürlerimi sunarım. İyi günler dilerim.
Teşekkürler Ali Bey. Sağ olun. Roboder'e katkıları için teşekkür ediyoruz. Son konuşmacımız açılış konuşmalarını yapmak üzere ve tabii ki bizim derneğimiz ENOSAT Başkan Yardımcısı, bir önceki 2 dönemin başkanı ve MAKFET Yönetim Kurulu üyesi Sayın Hasan Basri Kayakıran'ı alkışlarınızla kürsüye davet ediyorum.
Hepinizi derneğimiz ENOSAT adına sevgi ve saygıyla selamlıyorum. Ben bugün sizinle torpilli olarak konuşuyorum. Esasında yeni başkanımız Tunç Atil Bey olacaktı ama bana torpil geçildi. Şimdi robotik konusunda çok uzman insanlar konuşacaklar. Ben biraz farklı bir yere değinmek istiyorum. Türkiye'de eskiden fuar deyince İzmir Fuarı vardı. Senede bir gün, 30 gündü. Orası bir panayır yeriydi. Türkiye'de ilk özel sektör fuarları 1989 yılında yapılmaya başladı. Hannover Messe'de hemen akabinde 1992'de falan bu İstanbul Teknik Üniversitesi'ndeki yerde yapmaya başladı. Sonra uzaktan hizmet verirken 96-97'de Türkiye'ye kalıcı olarak geldiler ve sonunda sektörümüzün fuarı olan WIN fuarlarını bugünkü hale getirdiler. Yalnız tabii 2020 yılına geldiğimizde çok büyük bir gol yedik. Pandemi çıktı. Birbirimizden uzak kalmak mecburiyeti oldu. Tam fuarı 2020'de açılacağına bir hafta kala bütün hazırlıklar bitmiş. Herkes mutlu şekilde fuarı beklerken dediler ki sorry, fuarımız yapılamıyor. Sonra online'ın konforu, rahatlığı insanları cezbetti. Fakat online'da da şunu gördük ki birebir görüşmelerin tadı, lezzeti hiçbir şekilde yok. Yani biz aslında birbirimizi çok özlemiştik. Geçen sene başlayan fuarımız bu senede daha da bir hızlanmış şekilde devam ediyor. Ben tüm katılımcılara çok teşekkür ediyorum. Özellikle International Robotik Federasyonu Genel Sekreteri Bayan Doktor Bieller'e teşekkür ediyorum. Ta Almanya'dan buraya geldi. Yanılmıyorsam bir de İtalya'dan misafirimiz var. Ona da hoş geldiniz diyorum. Sözleri uzatmadan ana konulara girmesi için ben panelistlere bırakıyorum. Hepinize teşekkür ediyorum.
Teşekkürler, sizi salmayalım. Konuşmacılarımızı da ben sahneye davet edeyim. Bir toplu bir fotoğraf çekimimiz olsun basın için. Kaan Bey, Belkıs Hanım, Samet Bey, Başkanım, Tahir Bey buyurun lütfen. Buyurun. Lütfen, lütfen, lütfen. Teşekkür ederiz. Tahir Bey, Ali Bey teşekkür ederiz. Belkıs Hanım teşekkür ederiz. Buyurun. Şimdi bir keynote konuşmamız söz konusu. Uluslararası Robotik Federasyonu Genel Sekreteri Dr. Susanne Hanım aramızda. Küresel robotik pazarı, durum, trendler ve görünüm isimli bir sunum gerçekleştirecek. Ben kendisini aslında sahneye davet etmek istiyorum. Please Susanne, we are holding you, please. Thank you.
Ah, yeah, I can also stay. Yeah, that's true. No, fine. Yeah, I would like to thank Hannover Fair and also ENOSAT for inviting me and bringing me in, giving me the opportunity to present the global robotics market, the current status, but also give some outlook on the trends. For those of you that don't know the International Federation of Robotics, just a few words on our organization. We are a non-profit organization. We're active since 1987. We've been active as a communication and networking platform, so our biggest concern is to bring our members together. We have about 100 direct members, but through our association memberships, we represent over 3,000 organizations globally we can speak for. So this is the outline of our membership, and proud to highlight INOSAT as one of our members from Turkey. And so we're working partly as a federation of associations, and on the other hand have direct memberships of companies. Plus we have R&D institutes on board, and that makes the mix of membership so particular and makes IFR to what it is. And basically our activities are structured around these three activities. The robotics industry statistics. Most of you have come across world robotics statistics already, and already has been mentioned today in the opening speeches. We also act as the voice of the robotics industry, and I will bring some input of this work also in today to my speech. And last but not least, we support our associations and company members in policy support to enable a good environment for the installation of more and more robotics to help people around the world. I think one of the key questions has already partly been answered today. Why do we need robots at all? So we need robots to have better products, more affordable products, make companies more competitive. This, at the end, brings us as individuals better safety and quality of work and higher standards of living. And for the society, we have a lot of discussion right now in many parts of the world about lack of skilled labor and demographic shift. And this is also what we see from robotics. And last but not least, getting more and more important over the years, is robots help us to produce more resource and energy efficient. And that is a trend that is driving further development of robots as well. We are often asked, is an increasing number of robots affecting our labor market? And I said the positive answer is yes, it is. And it is positive because we see this productivity increase and competitiveness increase by robotics, and we see this has a positive impact on employment, on job quality and wages. There are a lot of tasks and jobs that disappear through automation. That is what automation is for. We want to get rid of dull, dirty and dangerous tasks in our daily life. But robots is also creating new jobs and new tasks, and this leads to a net positive effect of automation, and that is what we have to create and maintain over the years. It's not a competition between robots and humans. It's actually a work together and complementation. So we see more and more collaborative robots coming in. We see robots taking over some parts of our work and leaving us the leeway to do more creative, more impactful things. And that is what we'll be following in the years to come. And what we also see is the shift in skills profiles we'll need in manufacturing. And that is one of the big tasks we're facing right now, is we need more educational skills in order to enable the workforce to work with robots and reap the benefits of robotics. We'll see changes in job profiles over the next 10 years. And we see that all countries that adopt robots do drive their national and regional competitiveness. And we also fear that if we don't start to do any action and upskill workers and adapt our education systems, this shortage of manufacturing workers will actually continue. So what do we have to do? We have to start collaborating, and INOSAT and also RoboDare in this event today are good starting points for that. Is we have to collaborate between the manufacturers, the integrators, educational institutes and governments in order to make working in manufacturing more attractive. We have to get young people to go for manufacturing jobs, and we have to support the older workers to stay there. And we have to develop these lifelong learning programs, because it will not be a once learned job and then do that over 40 years. That is not going to happen in the future. We have to change and adapt over the course of our working life. We have to make sure that every young worker who's starting working in manufacturing can actually program a robot. It's not you don't need to have a university education to be able to program a robot. The future of robotics will be more and more easy to program. And so this is something that everybody should be able to do in the future. We have already heard the importance of system integrators, and yet this is a very important part that we have to improve and enforce, is the system integrators that are such an important part between the robot manufacturers and the end users. Particularly in a country like Turkey, where we have no individual robot manufacturers, we have the subsidiaries of the global robot manufacturers, but without system integrators, we would not be able to bring the robots to the companies that can actually use them. They bring in their robotic know-how, and they will bring in their domain and process knowledge, and this combination makes them so powerful. And we work together with the national associations that also bring in training programs, and they help companies to exchange best practices. We need to have the robot manufacturers and the robot system integrators to sit at one table and to discuss the developments and trends. And that will also help us to bring more robotics to SMEs. They need to enhance their productivities, but they feel sometimes a bit lost, and they are fearing some fears to embrace robotics so far. I already mentioned the democratic shift, and this is really something that's facing many major economies around the globe. We're having low birth rates, and we're having a baby boomer generation that is going to retire. So we are not only losing the workers in manufacturing, but we are also facing a growing need for elderly care, someone who takes care of those persons when they are getting older. So we have to really work on that. And this is not only working in manufacturing, but also in many areas beyond. So intralogistics is not getting their jobs filled. In e-commerce has been increased, even with the pandemic. We see need for robots in professional cleaning, inspection and maintenance, in hospitality and agriculture. There are mega trends that even push that further. We are having missing healthcare workers. We're dealing with global online retail sales that need to be fulfilled. We need robots to do that. We don't have the workforce to do this. We're having increasing building square footage that needs to be cleaned and maintained. We're facing a worldwide housing crisis. So we need to come up with robotic solutions that actually can tackle this and come up with pre-manufactured housing parts that can be then easier compiled. And also the glyphosate ban worldwide will have an impact on agricultural robots in the future. We already talked about the number of robots, and to be able to compare countries of different sizes and economies, we typically use the robot density at the IFR. The robot density is the number of industrial robots in operation per 10,000 workers in the manufacturing industries. It makes it easier to compare large economies or economies with only a small share in manufacturing world. So the top runner is Korea with a strong electronic and automotive industry. And then the numbers go down. We're looking at a global average of 150 around that. And you see on this slide, there's many countries on the slide, but you're missing Turkey. Turkey is still on the, I have the second slide for the European countries. And even here we see Turkey is at the very end. So there is much room for improvement. And this is why I'm also here today, to share the news and spread the word about the positive impacts of robotics. So let's take a step back and look at the global figures. We have seen a record year in 2021 after the pandemic. So automation, as I already said, has really boosted the installation of new robots. We have hit a new record of over 500,000 units. A tremendous growth of 31%, and we also have a long-term growth of 11% plus, which is very, very good for such an industry. And the robot stock, we now see 3.5 million units of industrial robots installed in factories around the globe. I don't have to say anything about that. That has already been introduced. So we see a steep growth curve. We actually saw, one thing I should mention here is that it was not the pandemic that led to a dip in the installations. We saw that dip in the year before the pandemic already. There was a lot of discussion about China-US competition. The automotive industry was a bit in a strange situation between the internal combustion engine and shifting to the electric vehicles. There was a lot of the Chinese automotive installation figures have gone down, so that was why the dip was already in 2019, but since then we saw a good growth again. As I said, the electronic industry is now the major customer for industrial robots. Already for a few years, it has changed in 2019. Automotive industry is only rank 2, but we also saw that after the pandemic, the need for automotive has increased, so there was a kind of push, certain investments were pushed over to this year, and that has increased, but we also see a strong trend, and that is impacting not only the global figures, but many single country figures for robots used in non-automotive and non-electrical industries, what we call the general industries. So we see metal machinery with a strong growth, a lot of new installations, and also plastic and chemical products, and also the food industry heavily invested in robotics. So that is also supporting the overall growth of the industry, because we are not relying on the very cyclic investments of the automotive industry. If you're looking at where are those robots used, we see that handling is the most important application of industrial robots with a plus of 36%. Welding, second largest application. We also see that in this trade fair hall. I saw a lot of welding applications here. And the good news is also that the assembling of industrial parts with robot has been increasing over the years, which is now the third largest application with a plus of 24%. And if you look at the regions, we can see that it's not really a surprise that Asia is the largest region, since it has 3 of the top 5 customers of robots. So Asia saw an increase of 38% in 2021. Europe was only at 24%, which still is a very good value. And the Americas, they have some kind of, they have been reluctant to invest in robotics in the past, so there was a strong increase of 31% in 2021. China is now the largest, or is already for some while the largest customer, followed by Japan, United States, Korea, and Germany. Here you can see the top 15. It's important to note or see that it's basically all countries were growing their investments in the past year. Some a bit more moderate, some more tremendous, but we saw growth on all regions and countries. As I said here, China is now the largest, not only the largest supplier, but China accounts for 52% of all new installations. So every second industrial robot installed in the world has been installed in China. That is a thing you have to really digest. Of course, it's pushed by the electronics industry. We get so many electronics products made in China. And also the automotive industry, they were hesitant to invest in 2020, but then had a almost 100% increase in 2021. So all the other industries also saw good growth rates in China. In the US, we see that the growth was basically driven by the general industries. Automotive industries had a dip in 2021. Nevertheless, we saw an increase of overall plus 40%. And the long-term growth rates, as I said, are more moderate, so we only saw plus 2% growth in the United States over the last 5 years. In Europe, we see a much more pronounced growth overall, plus 24%, and a long-term growth rate of plus 8%. Metal and machinery is the largest customer in Europe with a plus of 55%. Automotive is here split up between motor vehicles and automotive parts, so Tier 1 and the OEMs. And then this is followed by plastic and chemical products. And electronics is much less important than in other parts of the world. Just as a comparison, taking out one of the more established customer of robots in Europe, that's Germany, has a growth of 6% in 2021 and facing a more moderate growth on the long term. So automotive industry is quite mature. There's only more or less replacement. So we saw some dip in the automotive installation figures, but metal machinery and also rubber and plastics are heavily investing. The more positive picture is shown on this slide. That's the slides for Turkey. And as I said in the opening ceremony already, we saw a plus of 50% in installations. Of course, the base level is much lower yet, but there's so much room for improvement. And we also see the long-term growth rate, the compound annual growth rate of the last 5 years was at plus 10%. Largest customer is automotive, followed by metal and machinery, and again, rubber and plastics. So that's kind of comparable to the overall European picture. And now would split and look into the future. As I already mentioned, we are about to prepare the preliminary figures for 2022. We've published some preliminary figures for the global market, which we're looking at a growth of still only about plus 2% yet. But we are optimistic. We are still lacking some data from Asia, so that will shift the picture a bit. So we are optimistic to keep that 10% growth prediction for 2022. And then over the next 3 years, we expect an average growth of 7% per year around the globe. What is actually determining that growth, that we see full order books. There has been a very strong order intake in 2022, and due to the scarcity of raw materials and intermediate product we were facing 2022, there is a strong order backlog. So order books are still filled, and not all orders could be supplied yet. We now see that in Q1 2023, the order intake is slowing down a bit. There has been a tremendous political support pushing that growth. There are ongoing government initiatives, for instance, in the EU. There's a strong monetary policy in Turkey that's pushing the investments, which is also then resulting in the good figures we already saw earlier. And we also see the targets to force the automotive industry to invest in electric vehicles, both in the EU and also in China and other parts of the world. That's also a heavy driver for investment in automation. And another very important driver is the labor scarcity. So if you have order books filled and you want to produce your goods, you have to invest in robots, otherwise you will not be able to fulfill customer demands. There are a series of global trends that show a mixed picture, actually. We're having a lot of uncertainty factors, and we see that in robotics, since it's a future investment, it typically only pays off in a few years from now. So the uncertainty typically leads to postponement of investments. We see the central bank policies in the US and the euro area to burden further investments. We see the Chinese economy is developing much softer than it used to in the past years. And I don't have to talk about the political tensions that also make it more difficult. We see the energy prices in Europe going up, which is also hampering further growth. On the other hand, there are strong market trends that push for automation. With the pandemic, we saw the difficulties in the supply chains. So we discussed a lot about nearshoring of production. So we expect to see more production coming back to Europe or to the adjacent areas. That will only be possible if we invest in automation. We see the ongoing trend to high mix, low volume production. There's a strong demand for highly customized products, and this kind of requires the fully digitized production from order intake to delivery, and this goes hand in hand with the use of robots. And I also mentioned the need for more sustainable production in many parts of the world, especially the automotive industry is pushing for more energy efficient robots for their production to reduce the carbon footprint of their manufacturing lines, and then also for the products at the end. I would like to highlight 4 technological trends that are driving the further adoption of robots. First is the digitization. And I mean, walking around the floor, you have a good overview on what this means. We see as already mentioned, the fully automated production from order intake to delivery that is done with robots. We see the performance optimization by connecting robots and other machines. We see that the overall performance of the production will be increased. Virtual simulation, the digital twin, save a lot of money beforehand the installation of robots. So there has been a lot of investments in the setting up of systems. So this is actually supposed to help us reduce the cost of setting up such systems. We see new business models like robots as a service that makes it easier for newcomers in investment that are a bit hesitant about the high upfront investment. So you basically lease your robot and only pay for the amount of time you're using the robot, and this hopefully lowers the barriers for SME to enter this field. And last but not least, we see AI and digitization to help the robots sense and respond to the environment, which makes it easier and open for new applications that would not be possible today, especially in the field of human-robot application. So this brings us to the second trend, that's the collaborative robots. And we see that there's an expanding product range and much higher payloads and longer reach robots coming on the market. We see more and more players offering collaborative robots. We see the evolvement of business ecosystem and one-stop shops that ease the deployment for the customers. And we also saw in the past years, and still see that coming, more components and peripherals that are designed for human-robot collaboration. And last but not least, out-of-the-box solution also make it easier for a customer that hasn't used the robot before to make the first step and have some basic applications realized by robotics. But it's not the real collaboration mode, but more the ease of use that we see as a driver for the use of cobots. We see more and more off-the-shelf applications. And what we also see is blurring lines between industrial and service robots. So a service robot actually, a robot actually can be used, the same robot can be used in different applications, and once we call it service robot and once we call it an industrial robot. And this will blur further and depending on a new usage concept. So there will not be this strict distinction in the future, as we think. This proves that the share of collaborative robots nevertheless is increasing. We saw an increase of 50% last year in 2021 to 39,000 units. And the share of cobots from all industrial robots is now at 7.5%. So the good news is cobots are increasing at a higher rate than overall industrial robots, but it's still a way to go to have a look at a larger share of the amount of robots used. Another trend that goes close and hand in hand with the trends to the use of cobots is the trend towards low-cost and no-code robot programming. We call that the democratizing of robotics. The first and important part is the ease of use and programming. We typically see intuitive, self-explanatory graphical user interface or lead-through teaching. And we have both the kind of the low-cost robots, or sometimes the no-code, in a lot of cases, the no-code robot programming is more on top of the standardized traditional robots. It's typically offered by third parties to help you teach a robot It's again providing easier entry to newcomers, and we expect this to help overcome the barriers for SMEs to start automation. They typically face a lack of knowledge. They have labor challenges. They fear to invest in a robotic technology where they have to have skilled staff on site. So in case they use their employee that is trained to do the robot programming, they will have a piece of technology on board that they cannot use anymore. So we need more solutions to tackle this challenge for them. And last but not least, the final trend is AI and machine vision and machine learning. This will help in the future, and we already see some examples for that, robots to sense and respond to their environment. We see a lot of pick-and-place applications. That's basically bin picking, palletizing, and machine tending that can be done with this kind of support today. We also see a big push towards the use of mobile robots with the use of AI. And on the other hand, we see the optimization of the robot's performance or the manufacturing performance. Just a buzzword, predictive maintenance, you've heard of that, but it will also help out to make the robot's motion more efficient, and this again reduces the energy consumption. Just one short look towards beyond manufacturing. We saw also a strong increase in professional service robots, so that's all robots used beyond manufacturing, and we saw a plus 37%. Trends are basically the same. I already mentioned them again, and what we see as a new breed of robots is a mobile robot combined with a collaborative robot arm. We call that mobile manipulators, and we see that's again one of the blurring things between intermediates between industrial and non-industrial settings. We see almost in all areas a well double-digit growth. We saw a plus 45% of growth in transportation or logistics. We saw a plus of 85% in hospitality robots, 23% in medical, plus 31% in cleaning, and 21% in maintenance inspection. So that's the outlook, that also beyond manufacturing we see more, and also in this hall we see more applications of logistics robots. So the growth expectations are great, and we'll have great opportunities to learn more about this today. So thanks for your audience, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Susanne.
Thank you
For joining us. Thank you for your inspiring input, actually. And welcome again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Şimdi panel